You have a dollar bill in your pocket. Take out that dollar bill and tell me, where does it come from? Where does that dollar bill come from? So you might say, well, I got a paycheck, so it comes from my company. And then I will ask you, okay, well, where did that company get it? Well, they might say, well, they got it from sales from the public. The public bought their products. Okay, where do those customers get the money from? And so on and so on and so on and so on. Their job and their job and their job. And ultimately, it gets from a company, and ultimately the answer is, they might say, the Federal Reserve. And then I would say, who instructed the Federal Reserve? The answer is the Treasury, and then who instructed them, and that is Congress, because they wrote a bill and they passed it into law, and that bill had some number in it, $5 billion for the pony law. And so going backwards, Congress wrote a bill, passed it into law, wrote the number $5 billion in there. Once it gets into law, it instructs the Treasury, instructs the Federal Reserve, goes down to the state reserves, goes to the banks, goes to the people. So the answer is the United States Congress. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution is what gives the Congress the power to do that. And most importantly, only the Congress has the power to create the United States dollar. They are the monopoly currency issuer. Everyone except for the federal government, the United States Congress, everyone else in the country is a currency user. There is no one else in the world that is allowed to create the United States dollar. If the Congress is the only entity in the world that can create the dollar, then does it need any income? Is there any need for federal government to have income? And the answer is, of course, no. If they can create the dollar out of thin air, then they do not need any income. Do they need to borrow anything? It's a nonsensical question, because if the United States Congress can create the dollar and no one else is allowed to create the dollar, they could try, but they'll go to federal prison for counterfeiting. If they're the only ones in the world that can create the dollar, but they absolutely could create the dollar infinitely, and nobody else in the world is allowed to do that. So what does it mean to borrow something that only you are allowed to make? And you can make it on a whim. The United States government does not need to borrow from anybody else, because nobody else in the world makes the dollar, and they can do it whenever they want. If it needs no income, then why does it collect taxes? If I'm the federal government, I can make the money whenever I want to. Why would I collect taxes if I don't need to spend any money? If I don't need that to spend on federal programs, because I can create the currency.